Mr. Vikrant who has joined as of now. He's entering the West Foreign Policy of India in the Age of Transboundary Crises. So maybe we should move on to the second presentation, which is local. We can wait for Mr. Vikrant later on if he joins. We will begin. Local elections and 73rd amendments in India, women political participation in Manipur. Authors are Ms. Oinam Sarita Devi and the co-author is Dr. Laitonjam Muhindro. I think Dr. Laitonjam is with us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can see Mr. Dr. Laitonjam. Dr. Laitonjam, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yeah.
Please correct me in case I'm wrong. And the stage is all yours. And you have 15 speakers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairperson. My topic is a local election and the 73rd Amendment in India, women political participation in Manipur. Women in Manipur are traditionally put in high status. Women in this region are considered to be empowered as compared to the other parts of the country. They are recorded a respectable social position. The presence of the Asia's largest only women market, that is the Kuala Bazaar, marked as a symbol of women empowerment and gender justice by many writers. There are also witnessed a number of women activism, including Nisa Bans and Maya Paibis, women torchbearer, who took up the role for social justice and human rights, glorified the very nature of women's strength in this society. However, the glorification of women's strength in this society is just an illusion. Women's presence in political activism are widely absent. Since long back, participation of women as elected representatives in the legislative bodies are a great debate and still not effective in the state assembly and the parliament, though it is implementing one-third reservation policy in the local bodies elections with the 73rd Constitutional Amendment A. As a result of this act, many changes have brought in the lives of Manipurese women. Hence, the paper would analyze about political participation of women in local elections. My objective is, this paper attempted to analyze the political participation of women in local election, to analyze the efficacy of 73rd Amendment on women participation in Panchayati Raj Institution, to discuss the challenges and the problem faced by women to present in the public space and the way forward. Methodology. The paper used both qualitative and the quantitative methods. The primary data are collected through interviews with elected women representatives and the local self-government, their husbands and the workers, etc. Secondary data are collected from various government records, journals, news articles, etc. The paper is the outcome of empirical study of Bishnupur and the Imphal West district of Manipur. Finding and the discussion. The paper found that majority of elected women representatives shows gratitude. 73rd Constitutional Amendment is important planning to reduce the traditional norm and the feeling of the society towards women. Women in traditional society were kept under the subjugation of male, which restrict them from certain opportunities. They opined that this act would enhance in increasing equalities in socio-economic development. This act would make women to understand their role outside the home kitchen, especially in the decision-making process among men and women. Women being treated as secondary citizens never get chances to stand up and express their opinion in political activities. As a result of this amendment, the participation rate of women has increased to a large extent. Women are now contested elections as per with male candidates. The efficacy of 73rd Amendment and the reality check. 73rd Amendment were act as a catalyst in bringing more women into politics and the leadership position in India. But this need to be checked from the reality ground. We have patriarchal society, the social structure and the cultural norms have no space for women. The decision-making process are all concentrated in the hand of men, where decision by women are quite impossible. To take interviewed personally with elected women representatives are not easy. Most of the interviewed or discussion are taken in presence of her husband. in presence of her husband, female representatives are not even getting a chance to speak out of her own. Many of their husbands mark that their wife would not be able to reply what we are going to ask. Most of the conversations with the female representatives are interrupted by her husband. Can this exemplify what many authors call dummy candidate, or does the very policy to encourage women to present them in public sphere are success? The paper found that most of the female representatives mentioned that they contest election because their family members asked them to do so. Since women are easy to elect in the office because of the reservation policy, male members of the family took this benefit and asked them to run for election. Some of them insist that if there were no reservation, the male counterpart would contest the election instead of them. Elected women to act on behalf of her husband or father-in-law. Women are making entry to the politics only through the mandatory provision of reservation. The increase in the number of the women in the office is just the mere filling up of the reserved seat for them. During the election time, society and the male counterpart come up with some excuse to deny female candidate. Even after they were elected in the office of Panchayat, they face harassment from the society, male members, and from their own husband. First, society will judge the morality of women, then harass or abuse by her husband in response to the social judgment. Balancing between the household work as well as office has become a major challenge to them. They finish their household work earlier in the morning and later perform the work for village. This shows that women are taken family work as primary because of the old social stereotype and taken other office work as secondary, which are completely contrast to men. Among women representatives, the knowledge about the mobile internet is less. This made women to depend on her male family member, even need of an assistant to complete her official work. Measures to improve the condition. Since literacy play an important role in educating women and help to understand the system of the governance, they need a proper education to empower them. The low economic status of women is responsible for generating the entire problem, so it is the need of the hour to make economically self-reliance. In this digital era, women representatives should utilize the technology for their own self and for the development of the village. Campaign and the awareness program should be conducted to hold the social division of daughter and son. Then concluding part, the 73rd Amendment provides sustainability in the politics remains questionable. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Laitonjam, and I must appreciate that you confined yourself within the time limit. I would like to invite Dr. Lisa now for discussion. Please.
Thank you very much. Yes, can you hear me now?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much for this interesting presentation. For me, it's very interesting to see how women do participate in a certain way, but then also it is very concerning to see or to read or to hear how they really bring in their own topics and rather act on behalf of the interest of male members of the family or their husbands or sons. So they are as I understand it, they are rather are active only on the surface or as some sort of a proxy for interest of other interests. And you mentioned the need for further education, and you also mentioned the need for economic self-reliance. And in that regard, you mentioned there's a women market in Manipur, if I understood this rightly, and I would be very interested in maybe hearing more about that, like how did this women market evolve, what are the characteristics of this market, in what way could this market maybe, I don't know, be a place for communication among women, so networking for women, and be a place for a safe space, maybe also for connecting women and furthering empowerment, education needs, networking, whatsoever. I'm not sure if you want to directly respond to this or if we should go on with the other presentations, but
okay. I think the structural format that we can go with is we can have, what would you like to prefer? Would we, Dr. Lisa, should we first have all the presentations and then have a discussion, or should we continue, like we have one presentation and then the discussion and then we move on to the next one?
I'm totally open to whatever you prefer. I'm just, in case there are several discussions with sorry?
In case there are several discussions?
With similar topics, it might be good to combine the discussions maybe later.
Okay, you would want to combine the discussions in the end?
If
sure.
Okay,
let's want to. I think that would make sure that we do not leave out anybody out of the presentations because of lack of time. So let us quickly move on to our, and in the end we will have a discussion. I would request everybody to please stay online till the end of this session. So the next, thank you so much Dr. Laitonjam for your presentation. The next presenter we have is Ms. Rifat Oyu, and her the title of her paper is Political Reservation and Women Empowerment in Rural Local Bodies, Experience from Jammu and Kashmir, India. Ms. Rifat Oyu, if you can hear me, you can please go ahead with your presentation. We'll just wait for half a minute. Probably she has lost her connection, or maybe there is some issue with the camera. Ms. Rifat, can you hear me? Yeah, she's presenting.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes.
Yes, your screen is also visible.
Yes.
Okay, shall I start?
Sure, please.
Okay,
you have 15 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Please.
Hello everyone. Today in this panel I'm here to present my paper titled Political Reservation and Women Empowerment in Rural Local Bodies, Experience from Jammu and Kashmir, India. This is the outline of my presentation. First of all, I will be giving a brief introduction of my presentation, followed by the research objectives of the paper. Then I will be discussing about the research methodology undertaken in the paper, and then I will be focusing on the major findings of the paper, and finally concluding remarks and suggestions. Now, starting with the introduction, as we know that equal representation of women in elected political bodies has become one of the major concern of contemporary times. So not only this, it has attracted the attention of many academicians and has emerged as a new field of research in social sciences. Although women constitute around half of the total world population, they still share a considerably lower presence in elected political bodies. The global under-representation of women has also been highlighted by the Inter-Parliamentary Union Report of 2022, which shows that women made up only 26.1% of all national parliamentarians as of January 2022. Considering the global under-representation of women, many nations and thinkers have argued for
electoral participation, followed by the primary data collection from the 252 respondents according to the fact that the Dalit community's participation in election are higher than the other communities. So here we can see that 90%, 35.7% participation from the Dalit community in the electoral politics. With moving with this, next slide is the next factor. In this part, in this study, explain how caste role in the electoral campaign. So when the Dalit candidate to the electoral campaign, so what are the role in doing caste? So for example, this campaign, these both ruling parties and the party alliance followed the street campaign method as a strategy to do campaign. At the same time, in this constituency, non-Dalit voters not allowed a Dalit candidate in their residence area. When Dalit candidate went to do campaign in the area, this is the real factor happened. Even this, it's opened up by the same candidate, though it is a reserved constituency. So they didn't allow the Dalit candidate inside to campaign, but finally they entered with the help of the alliance party, DMK. So here also we can see that 87% stated the discriminations happen based on the caste basis. So thing is, moving with the Dalit representation here is both party leaders are realized the secret to their success, maintain the caste based.
Lisa is going to facilitate us here as they discuss it. Lisa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me as well.
Sure, absolutely, Lisa. The space is all yours, and we can have a wonderful discussion. I would request all the participants to stay till the end so that we can take up questions and we can have on the papers that we've had. We've had some wonderful presentations here. All the presenters were very clear about what we wanted to talk about. So Lisa, please go ahead.
Yes. Thanks very much, and also thanks a lot again for the opportunity to be part of this panel and to read all the interesting papers or to hear the interesting presentations. You all provided fascinating insights into the case of India for me, and I think also to the broader public. And you presented the challenges in the respective democratic processes in some papers with special regard to women. I do have some more general remarks that speak to several papers, and I also do have some individual questions and remarks. I will start with the individual ones and then come to the more general ones, which might also lead to discussion. Beginning with the last presentation, thank you, Mr. Tirupati, and please correct me if I do pronounce your names wrongly, just jump in and correct. I found it very interesting, but also very sad and shocking to hear and or to read about the violent and intimidating practices at stake during elections and political processes. Although this is not entirely the topic of your paper, but trying to link it a bit back to the topic of
fruitful dialogue with our neighbor. So when we talk about Aman Ki Asha, it is jointly initiated by the Pakistani group and the Times of India group, and combining the Urdu word for peace, which means Aman. So when we are talking of Aman Ki Asha, here Aman means peace. With the Hindi word, they have collaborated it with Asha, means hope in English. There is an international boundary. So that is one thing. So this is how, in 2018, the corridor was constructed, and it was finally it came to an agreement. So this is how we have it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Lisa, maybe now we can move on to Rifat and Laitonjam, and they both have raised similar issues, and I would like to inform you that India, in fact, this was something new for me as well, especially Laitonjam's paper. I am also from India. In fact, I am from a place called Haryana in India, which is one of the most rapidly patriarchal place in India. And I used to actually think that places like perhaps in the northeast, that is what I've heard, Laitonjam. Northeast is in India, the northeastern part of India is known for its gender equality, not only in India but the world over. And in your paper you've brought in a very different perspective though, when I was listening to your paper, your presentation. I noticed that the issues you've raised in Manipur related to women's representation at the local level, I could gather that the gap between places like the other places in India, especially places like places in North India, Manipur is no different, it seems. So how do you explain that? That is my question.
Thank you very much. Yes.
You have to unmute yourself, Laitonjam.
Is it audible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is audible.
Thank you very much. Actually, the political empowerment of the women is very high, I should say, because many women can participate in the active politics, even though in the long history in India also, politics is considered only for the male, but it is not business of the woman, it is considered from the long history. But nowadays, with the 73rd amendment of the 1/3 reservations in the local self-government, the women can also participate, but the question is very concerned regarding how far they can empower themselves, because most of the participants in active politics and the elected representatives in the local self-governments are backed by someone, maybe his family, her family, or maybe a husband, or maybe her worker, because they cannot stand alone in the politics. But it is very improving right now. But when we compare to the other states, Manipur is very high in the political empowerment, because many women can participate in the assembly election also, and won the assembly election, and ministers. In terms of the percentage, it is very high to compare other some parts of the northeast India. In Nagaland, for example, there is no elected representative in the assembly, but very luckily in the last election in Nagaland, 2 women elected from the BJP candidate. It may be the first, I think. So in Manipur, many women are elected in the legislative assembly, and also in this local self-government. Right now, the women are very much activism in the politics also. Not only this politics, they are very much active in social reformations. So Lisa also mentioned that regarding the women market requirement, which is very special in the world, that it is run by only the women, not male is allowed to sit in this market. So in this market, they can consider and they can discuss various different issues of the social issues, and even the Myra PRIs, it is an organization of the women only. They can move forward for the protection of the human rights. The Manipur is a very in the conflict zone. Right now, I am also participating in this conference from the Guwahati, not from Manipur, because the internet is banned in Manipur. So I moved to the Guwahati for participation. Yesterday I participated my panel, and today is representing my research scholar, Ph.D. My research scholar. I represent for her. So Manipur is right now undergoing the conflict situation. In this conflict situation, so also women has been taking a major role for peace loving and for protecting all the human rights also. So perhaps it might be the active in the social movement. They are also very much increasing in the empowerment of the political participations. I should say that much.
Okay. Is there anything else, Lisa, that you wanted to discuss with or ask Laitonjam?
No, for the moment not. Thank you very much for elaborating a bit on this answer.
Laitonjam, I just have one, because we still have some good 15 minutes for a discussion.
Okay.
I just have one more observation, or rather a question to ask you, which is that, is it that, and also to Tirupati maybe, if we talk about intersectionality, in the sense that, is it, if we talk about the intersection of caste and religion, caste in case of Tirupati, and maybe there are, if I'm not wrong, at present also, we have the conflict in Manipur is between the Kukis and the Betes, if I'm not wrong, right? So is it, although my question is confined to your paper, is it that different communities have different practices when it comes to women? In the sense that maybe there are certain communities within Manipur, I'm talking about the intersection of gender and communities here, whether it is caste-based communities, or whether they are caste-based communities, or maybe religion-based communities, or any other category that we may bring in. So, if we talk about intersectionality, is it that across all sections, across all communities in Manipur, is it so that the women, it is their husbands and brothers and the male members in the family who speak and act on behalf of women in the family when it comes to representation of women? Or is it only certain communities where this is so? Because as I would again want to emphasize that I'm sure it came as a surprise to other participants as well, that Northeast India, as I said, as you also have rightly pointed out, is known for its gender equality. So is it there only in certain communities, or is it across the communities in Manipur that when it comes to women's representation in local bodies, it is the males in the family who act and speak on their behalf? If you could please it.
Yes. It is not in a particular community. It is in general for all the women. Because I also already mentioned that politics is considered for only the male, and the women are considered for household keeping and his family, look after families and other things. So all the women are someone back for the politics. But those who are very capable and very potential, they can compete and they can stand alone. But most of the women, not only for particular caste or particular, yes, Manipur is Manipur has different communities, different ethnic tribes, like is a mini India like that. So different languages are there, different communities are there. But now the conflict is yes, Kuki and the Meiteis. Indeed, is not in the larger perspective. It is not a communal conflict. It is external aggression, I should say, because it is the narco-terrorists like that from Myanmar. Since Myanmar conflict situation of the military junta, lots of the Myanmar people are entering illegal immigrants in the border area of the Manipur. So it is a very big issue. Not only in Manipur, it is the national issue, and even in the international issue. We also heard about that in the Chittagong Trek, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and then India. There is one Chittagong Trek. Here, lots of the Kuki militants are settling there, and they are dreaming about a separate country, not a separate state. like a separate country, because their movement in the Myanmar, they are kicked out from the Myanmar government, and from the Bangladesh also they are kicked out from the Bangladesh. So they are dreaming and they are demanding and they are forwarding for a movement for a separate country, not a separate state or not a separate district like that. So the conflict will be, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laitonjam. I think we have just 10 more minutes left, so we should move on to our last presenter, Rifat Ayub. And yeah, would you like to respond to Lisa's observations first, Rifat, and then we can carry on from there on?
Yes, sir, yes. So, Ms. Lisa, your first question, whether introduction of quotas has led to any qualitative change. In other words, substantial representation of women. So, in case of India, in different states of India, I would say that yes, women are doing very good in terms of public service delivery. Women representatives and PRIs, that's rural local governing bodies, they are referred to as Panchayati Raj Institutions in Indian language. So after the introduction of quotas, it has been observed that approximately 1 million women are elected every term in these institutions, and they are performing very well in terms of public service delivery, in placing the agendas and concerns and issues of women in these institutions and addressing their issues, particularly women and children issues. There's a book by Vishakha Datta, a famous book. She's an Indian writer, an Indian journalist, Vishakha Datta. She has written a book titled as A Study of All Women Panchayats in Maharashtra. There are innumerable instances in that book where we can see, how women representatives are performing much better than their male counterparts, in terms of public service delivery. Also, they're not only taking up the, traditional issues taken up by men like construction of small roadways, bridges, fences, but they are also, taking up the women's concerns. Like there are innumerable instances in that book where the women panchayat members, they decide to set up a portion of their meetings for discussing the women's issues like dowry and domestic violence, and they accordingly deal with that. In many other states like Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chandigarh, Maharashtra, Kerala, women are doing much better than their male counterparts, and in terms of public service delivery through these institutions, through panchayats. So just 2 days before, I was reading a case study of a woman sarpanch in Chandigarh. Chandigarh is one of the states in the Indian subcontinent. What she did, her
some concrete change, and so your paper ends on a very optimistic note. And similarly, Tirupati's and Koman's papers were also very nice. Koman, you've also presented very well, and Laitonjam and Tirupati both also did very well. Lisa, I must interrupt a few seconds. Lisa, despite the fact that you are from outside the region, you understood the papers very well and brought in some very, very lively discussion in the panel. So thank you all of you. It was wonderful having you all here, and hopefully we should meet again sometime later. Thank you everybody. I think we will go offline any time now because it's already 7:15 India time, and thank you. I think we should.
Thank you very much.
Maybe if you can write in the chat box if there are any problems.
Nothing, just for responding your question to me, right? How the women carry forward under community.